Welcome back to Mark Haney, igniting the entrepreneurial revolution with the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of the Entrepreneurs Organization of Sacramento, EO, where our members go all in. I'm Mark Haney, and I am joined by the award-winning Executive VP of CBRE, Inc. He's a man with a great name, Randy Getz. Randy gets the deal, gets the glory, and Randy ends up in the end. He gets the girl, doesn't he, Randy?
All I'm trying to do is keep the metaphorical wolf from the door.
Yes, if we can do that, we have it handled. But that is, you know what? I can't do that. I'm gonna have to, I bring that in because your name it begs that we do that. But when I first talked to you the other day, and you and I did not know each other, the first thing you brought up was your wife. I started asking about you, and you had to bring up your wife.
Well, normally I have to ask her to tell me what I think, which is why I brought it up.
Well, it's so cool that you're so proud of her, but you've done a lot of things yourself in real estate. Tell us about what you're doing as the executive VP over at CBRE Inc.
Well, all I am is a salesperson. I'm an intermediary. Folks hire me to market and sell investment properties in Sacramento, up and down the state of California, and across the country. So wherever someone is willing to engage us to represent them, we try and do our best job possible.
Well, we've been talking about connections today, and before you came on, we had the guys from Magilla on the show today. They're making connections electronically. What do you think about Magilla? And then also, how do you make connections?
Well, the Magilla platform is excellent because what it allows you to do is get loan quotes from a multiplicity of lenders from across the country. So as a result of what they're offering, you can get 30, 40, 50, 100 different loan quotes for a given transaction, which is very valuable. It gives you choice. And the one thing you want in this life, whether it's getting a loan or the way you're going to run your life, is you want choice. So what was your second question?
Second question was just, you were making connections. How do you make connections? Obviously, if you're doing some lending or you need to hook up your borrower with some financing, Magilla is one option. But connections in real estate are so much more than that.
I'll tell you something that you may or may not find hard to believe. Ours used to be, a long time ago, very much a face-to-face business. And on a certain level, it still is. But the majority of the people with whom I work, I've never met on a personal basis. The relationships are strong, they're enduring. There are folks with whom we've worked a multiplicity of times, and the communications are strictly telephonic or electronic. But if you're someone who's dependable, if you work hard, if you're always working in the best interest of your clients, people figure that out. It's helpful if you can see them face to face, obviously. But they can still figure out who you are and what sort of an apt representative you're going to be for them, even if they don't press flesh.
How about when you meet somebody initially? How do you establish that bond?
Well, I don't know that you do it immediately, although I would like to think that if you're somebody who's been in business for a while, people are able to read other people fairly quickly. Part of what makes a good business person and part of what one does for the first few years when you're in business is learning how to qualify. In other words, who's someone with whom you can work collaboratively and successfully? Who's going to do what he or she says he or she is going to do? And you learn pretty quickly. And in my business, it takes 2 or 3 years. But at the end of that time frame, you have a pretty good ability to read who's someone with whom you can collaborate successfully. And it doesn't take very long. Within seconds, you'll know if someone is someone you want to work with.
You've had a number of successes in building your real estate career. Can you highlight some of the successes? And maybe there's a big win in there somewhere you can tell us about.
We treat every transaction, whether it's a $50 million deal or a $500,000 deal, exactly the same. We put the same amount of effort into it. We do the same job on behalf of the client, the same marketing materials every single time. I don't know any other way to do it. I would say that if you're someone who works hard on behalf of your client and always works honestly and ethically, you're going to be very successful. And also understand that you've got to be persistent. And that doesn't mean that you're annoying in terms of your interactions with others. It means that in the face of disappointment, which is going to happen in any industry, you learn from the experience to the extent that you can and then move on. In every instance, your next action after something has happened, whether you make a deal or you blow a deal, your next action is always the same. You go on to the next deal. So, for example, I closed a deal yesterday, a rather sizable transaction. If you were to ask me the details of it, I'm not even sure I could tell you, because it's yesterday. It's not now. It's not tomorrow. It's done, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, you got to stay current, working on the stuff that is meaningful for now. I mean, that's already behind us.
Right. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters in the sense that we generated a great deal of money for someone. We helped someone achieve economic objectives. The buyer's ecstatic because the buyer's got a piece of property that's going to help him fulfill his needs. But in terms of the intermediary has to move on. You've got to be like this creature that always looks down the road. You're never looking back.
Now, I've lived here in Sacramento area my entire life. You've been here a number of years. What do you see on the horizon for commercial real estate here in the Sacramento area?
I think this is one of the more interesting markets in the country. At the end of the day, this is a very desirable place to live. I mentioned to you the other day when we first spoke that if you don't make a lot of money, you can live a dignified life in Sacramento. And if you're fortunate enough to do well, you can have almost any lifestyle you want. There are very few places in this country where you can say those two things about the place where you live. So not only is this a delightful place to live, it's a delightful place for that reason to invest. And what we're seeing as coastal markets become a little pricier, buyers are willing to come to Sacramento where they perceive a little bit more risk, but the returns are better. And we've got room to run. This is going to be, in my judgment, a very interesting and productive environment in which to live and work for a long time.
So we're at the beginning of something, or what inning would you say we are in terms of the changes that are happening in growth in Sacramento?
I think that I'm not sure I can analogize it to a baseball game, but let's just say that there will be cycles. We're probably closer to a downturn than we have been, but if you're someone who takes the long view, I think we're probably in the second or the third inning in terms of decades to come. I think as interesting a place as Sacramento is now, whether you're looking to buy a home, go to dinner, go to a club, go to see some form of cultural entertainment, it's at the risk of sounding cliche, it's only just beginning. Yeah. In my judgment. I'm really happy to be living here.
All right. I want to thank you for coming on the show, Randy. Your insight into real estate and how to win and doing it without as much face-to-face, which, here I'm with people here who make a living with face-to-face business. And I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts on connections. When we return, we're going to share our takeaways from today's show, and we're going to throw out a couple of our thoughts about how we make winning connections. Join the revolution, HaneyBiz.com. Courtesy of Sun System Technology, this is the HaneyBiz Project.